Is it a custom car or a UFO? Well, either way, the Spaceliner is out of this world. Hi there, I'm Rick DeBrule with another chapter in the automotive evolution. And once again, I'm here at the Martin Auto Museum in Phoenix. It's a wonderful collection with more than 170 cars, some of which are very significant. Others were more whimsical, like this 1960 Spaceliner. But before I talk about this wild custom car, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. The likes are really important. And in the comments, let me know what I got right and if I got something wrong. And let me know if you've ever done any customizing on any of your cars. How hard is it to get all the lines just right? Let us know in the comments. All right, now let's talk about the Spaceliner. If you're a fan of wild, space-age customs from the golden era of car shows, well, then you have to appreciate this 1960 Ford Spaceliner. It's a one-of-a-kind creation built by a guy named Scott Wiley. You see, there was a time in the 1960s when bubble-top customs were the rage. You see, back then, car customizers were looking towards the future, and nothing said tomorrow quite like a bubble top. Those clear plastic domes that were inspired by jet fighters and space capsules, they became a defining symbol of the era's futuristic custom car movement. Builders like Darryl Starbird, Gene Winfield, and Ed Big Daddy Roth turned the bubble top into an icon of mid-century imagination. Starbird's Predicta and Roth's wild creations like the Beatnik Bandit all use bubble top canopies to transform ordinary cars, or sometimes wild cars, into space-age dream machines. The effect was otherworldly, sleek, smooth, and aerodynamic, as if the cars were built not just to cruise the highways, but the cosmos. Creating those bubble tops wasn't easy. Customizers had to heat large sheets of acrylic and blow them over molds, a tricky process that often took multiple tries. But when it worked, well, the result was pure magic, a perfect fusion of automotive art and science fiction. All right, now let's talk about this car, the Spaceliner. It's the brainchild of a man named Scott Wiley. He wanted to build something fun, something that was a throwback to that golden era of car customizing and the bubble tops. He started with a 1960 Ford Fairlane, a solid straight-six cruiser, but it didn't stay ordinary for very long. Wiley initially just chopped the top off and drove around for a while before hooking up with a builder named Cody Bergdorf. That's when the magic really happened. To the atomic age dream of flight and fantasy. And let's start, of course, with the most jaw-dropping feature, this custom twin canopy roof. Now, these aren't replicas. These are real aircraft canopies from an RV-8 airplane. And on the car, they're actually actuated to lift open like something off of a jet fighter. The exterior, well, it's a showstopper in its own. It's finished in a color-blended turquoise with an extreme, and I mean extreme, heavy metal flake paint job that practically glows under the lights. Out back, of course, you'll find those 10 functioning bullet taillights and even a rear jet thruster, completing the full rocket ship illusion. This is not a standard hood ornament, but this is not a standard car. It's built on a 1960 Ford Fairlane, as I mentioned. And the reality is most of the body is actually pretty stock. When you look up front, the way the grille looks, the way the lines of the car look, the reason he chose this is because it had kind of a futuristic look, and so it made sense to kind of keep things relatively stock, at least from the belt line down. And in fact, one of the things he liked was the fact that this chrome strip runs all the way across from the front all the way to the back, and the fact that it's below the belt line, so they didn't have any big dips that they had to worry about cutting when they were changing the doors and changing the top. I love these hubcaps. We'll call them UFO, spaceship hubcaps inspired. One of the big significant changes in the car, you'll notice when you're going down the side, is it's missing something. Right about here, there should be a line for a door. Well, that's because the doors on the passenger side have been welded shut and smoothed over. It's just one big panel of metal with that beautiful turquoise metal flake paint job. This, of course, is where the door would have hinged, right here and right here. So on the passenger side, it's just a nice, beautiful panel. The other side, well, it's a little bit different over there because you still have to be able to get into the car, and you didn't want to just crawl through the bubble top. And of course, having fins on a Spaceliner, of course, is the perfect thing. And this was the classic design from the 1960 Ford Fairlane. Last year, of course, that the Ford Fairlane was a full-size car before it became a mid-size car. Plenty of changes done to the back of this car. If you look at a 1960 Ford Fairlane, it looks very different. And of course, what classic customized car would be complete without taillights from a 1959 Cadillac? And here on our Spaceliner, we have not 2, not 4, but a total of 10 1959 Cadillac taillights. And I believe this came from a 1951 Ford. Here it looks like a rocket thruster, but that would have been on the front of the Ford. As we rotate around the rest of the car, now we're starting to see these door lines. See how the doors naturally come down. This is what it would have looked like on the other side, but the idea was to give it a smoother appearance. This is the bubble top that rotates up, which of course you'd have to do. How do you do that? Since there's nothing on the outside that's apparent where you can raise that top, all you have to do is go to the front. Right under the grill, right about here, is a little switch, and you have the ability to push that, and that's how the top begins to rise. Now the top goes up smoothly, but it's something that definitely takes time. We'll speed this up. Now that we've got the top up, let's get inside. Of course, there are no door handles on the outside, so we have to reach in and get inside. Once we do, you kind of fall into the car because these bucket seats are a little lower than would probably normally have been on a 1960 Ford Fairlane. But the reality is, once you're inside, it's a very standard Ford Fairlane. The dash is exactly the same as it would have been. Of course, the fact that, number one, they've added this amazing paint job to it, and number two, they've decided to add some fun fur, which was done quite a bit back in the old days. And remember, this is an homage. This is a tribute to what was being done back then. This car itself was actually built in 2014, so a long time after those 1960s classics. But the dashboard essentially the same. And unfortunately, I wish this was one of those cars that had the really cool, space age style, gauges and knobs and things. But just the way it is, it's still pretty fun. There's something up here. This is how I believe how you control the air suspension, so we can raise or lower it depending upon what we want to do. That's another cool thing about this car. You can give it a fun stance. They put bucket seats in the back and more fur in the back. I have yet to actually put the top down and see what it's like. You've got to feel at least a little bit of claustrophobic slightly when you're in here. And of course, talking to the person next to you is going to be a little difficult because the bubble's going to get in the way. But once again, this is not about driving comfort. This is not about driving at all. This is about show. The reality is a lot of those show cars that were built back in the 1960s weren't good drivers at all. They really weren't made to be put on the road. They were just made to be pieces of rolling automotive art. And that's exactly what we have here with this 1960 Spaceliner, a tribute to those classic customized cars of the 1960s, the kind of thing that Gene Winfield and Darryl Starbird would have been driving. And in fact, both of those guys have autographed the dashboard here to say that they appreciate the work that went into this. All right, we'll talk about the customizing in a moment, but let's start off by talking about the engines that you could have gotten back then with a 1960 Ford Fairlane. This has the 223 cubic inch inline six. That was a classic, reliable, solid engine. You also had a couple of V8 options, 292 cubic inches or 352 cubic inches, the Thunderbird Special that gave the Fairlane plenty of pep for its class. But the six-cylinder engine used in the 1960 Ford Fairlane was part of Ford's long-running line of dependable inline engines that dated back to the 1940s. By 1960, the Fairlane standard power plant, once again, was this 223 cubic inch mileage maker, that was the nickname for it, inline six. Had overhead valves. This was introduced in 1954 to replace Ford's aging flathead six. Had smoothness, reliability, not a lot of raw power. It only produced 145 horsepower. But it was a solid torque at low speeds. It was ideal for everyday driving. And of course, it featured a sturdy cast iron block, simple carburation, easy to service, which made it a favorite among fleet buyers. Now, here we have, at this engine, something that's been taken to the next level. Once again, it's kind of a plain, simple six-cylinder engine. But look at how the engine compartment and the engine itself have been detailed. That gold metal flake on the engine block, the chrome valve cover, and of course the great look of this turquoise inside. Now, one thing I have to point out that may look like it's custom, but it's not, is this air cleaner right here. This was a stock standard air cleaner on a 1960 Fairlane with this 6-cylinder engine. I love the design of it, and of course it's designed to sit lower, so instead of having an air cleaner on top that of course was then going to cause everything to have to go up a little bit higher with regards to the hood, I love the way they've got the air flowing in from the side. You simply would replace the air cleaner down here. Now that also could restrict the flow of air, but still, from a design perspective, this was really, really cool. And the fun thing about it is that, it looks like it's something spacey, but it's actually stock for a 1960 Ford Fairlane. And of course, we do have our Spaceliner name up front when you open the hoods. Not on the outside, but is on the inside. So nothing special under the hood in terms of performance, but it's been dolled up just a little bit. Give it a little extra style to match the outside. The 1960 Spaceliner isn't just a custom car. It's a gleaming time capsule from an age when America dreamed of jetpacks, moon landings, and life among the stars. Every curve, color, and chrome accent really reflects the optimism of the early 1960s when the future felt limitless and style knew no boundaries. But remember, this was not built during the 1960s. This is a throwback. Scott Wiley and Cody Bergdorf imagined what those people back in the 60s were thinking when they looked into the future. And I love the fact that here at the Martin Auto Museum, right next to this vision of what the future was going to be from the 60s, sits a 1948 Tucker, a car that was also leaning into the future with both styling and technology that they were creating for its day. They only built 51 of those looking into the future, but this looks to the future of automobile customizing as it looked back in the 1960s.